Grand Traverse County roads took a serious beating this winter, with snowfall already topping 111 inches, far above last year, driving up plowing, fuel, and maintenance costs. Road Commission Director Dan Watkins told county commissioners that several major road projects are planned for 2026, including work on Hammond Road, Cass Road, and the long-awaited improvements to Frankie Road. But a surprise twist in Lansing's new road funding plan means the county is currently receiving less money than expected, leaving officials uncertain about how many projects can actually move forward. So let's listen to Dan.
Hey, this is Jim Horn with another edition of Traverse Talks. And today we're going to be listening to a recent presentation given by Dan Watkins, our road commissioner, our county road commissioner, to the Grand Traverse County Board. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to let Dan talk about some of those things that would be of interest to you, what the winter was like, projects, funding, etc. I think it's an interesting presentation that he had made to the board, and we're going to let Dan tell you in his own words exactly what's going on. Anyway, here is Dan. We're going to be talking about what the winter was like for the roads here in Grand Traverse County.
A little bit about this winter. Obviously, we've had winter's back, quite a winter this year. Our blade usage is up, our sand usage is up, our fuel usage is up. We've had a really hard push here, so we don't have final numbers yet, but obviously this is going to affect final budget a little bit this year because we actually really had quite the winter. Right now, looking at snow totals, it's at we're at the airport there, and so far this year we've had 111 inches. This time last year we had about 85 inches, so you can see we've already had quite a bit more snow this year. Last year our total was about 100 inches total for the year, so we're definitely up there for the total snow this year.
Okay, there is Dan's presentation on what the winter looked like. It was obviously pretty tough on the equipment. Next up, he's going to talk about some of the projects that are upcoming. And what I would suggest, if you want to find out about a particular project in your area, go to the Road Commission, Grand Traverse County Road Commission website. You'll find something there. Anyway, here's Dan on some of the projects.
Talk a little bit about projects coming up here. And if you go to our website, you can see there's a section here for projects. And there's the road project list here for 2026. A lot of these projects still have to go out to bid. So, this is what we're going to try to accomplish. There's always things that can come up, different things, vendors, price, cost, but this is what our goal is to get done here in 2026. Just wanted to highlight a couple of big projects here that we're doing. The Hammond Road project, Cass Road project, Cedar Run, and East Silver Lake. And then Frankie Road. I know we've talked about Frankie Road quite a bit. That one is getting really, really close here. We're hoping by the end of the month that we'll have really nice renderings, have over 80% of that project designed, and we'll be putting that one out to bid. Definitely have had a couple of meetings. Something that's came out of this one is there's a lot going on in that section of road with the semi-trucks trying to turn into Meyer, the school. So it took quite a bit of time there to design and really come up with something that would work well for everyone, the school, the residents, and Meyer. So we hope to have something to everybody to look at here shortly on that one.
Okay, there you have what's going on with some of the roads, especially Frankie Road. Anybody that's been on Frankie Road knows that it's in terrible, terrible condition. But obviously, from what Dan says, it's more complicated than one would think. And so they're working on getting the issue straightened out. So Dan next is going to talk about funding, and he's running into some issues on funding. So let's from the state primarily. So let's listen to Dan here.
Want to talk a little bit about funding. So I think everybody's probably very aware that Lansing came up with a new funding policy and project. It's not working out quite the way they originally thought. At first, they were talking about doubling our budget. We could have really done something with that. What they came back with is they went through all 83 counties, and they did a 35% increase is what they did overall. And what they did with that was they looked at the tax on the fuel, all that money is truly going to roads now. It was going different places. So there's a 20-cent tax on that. The other thing they introduced is called the Neighborhood Road Fund, and that was actually the marijuana funds. So originally this year, they told us, plan on this money coming, budget for it. They've recently sent out, and we've had meetings, they said, do not plan for this money. It's held up in litigation, not going to happen. So we're not going to see those additional funds. The way they started collecting the new taxes and they changed some things around, we're actually seeing less money right now. So for example, this past month, from what we'd had last year, we were actually down 11% from what we were last year for our funding. Now they're saying later in the year, we should start to see this fuel tax. We'll start to catch back up. But as of right now, we're actually receiving less funding now than we did previously. So that was a little bit disheartening, but hopefully it looks like it's going to straighten out here over the next few years. We should start to see a little bit more funding.
So if you're wondering why all of the roads don't get done, it really has to do with funding. And the marijuana initiative that he talked about, there was a additional tax placed on the marijuana sales, and the litigation he's talking about is the marijuana growers or the people that sell marijuana apparently have filed a lawsuit saying the tax was illegal or unconstitutional or whatever, and that's the litigation he's talking about. Anyway, upcoming is a question here by Commissioner Andrews.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not happy to hear about the road funding not coming through. There's a recent report out that suggests that those numbers are actually far worse for most counties, more like 15 or 20% already this fiscal year over what was received in past years, which is not 35% more. But my question for you is, I believe looking at your budget for this year that you were expecting about an $8 million increase in state funds relative to last year. What did you plan to do with those funds, and what's on hold now that it appears that those may not materialize at all or may even be less than last year's budget?
Right. I think overall, we're still planning on seeing some funds. Phil's here with us today. He might be able to talk a little more on exact funds. Right now, we were kind of planning on that $17.5 million. Last year, we had some projects come in under budget, so we actually had some rollover, and that's how we were able to maintain that $17.5 million.
So it gets all back to funding, folks. I mean, if Dan Watkins and the county commissioners get the money, they're going to work on the roads. If they don't get the money, they can't work on the roads. Anyway, Dan talks a little bit here about road costs.
I forgot to mention that we're starting to see prices are actually coming in 10 to 20% under right now on road projects. Before, we were seeing engineers' estimates that everything was coming in 20% over the last few years. And actually this year, Lansing just had a big meeting on it that I attended, that they're seeing 10 to 20% reduction in prices. A lot of that they're saying is due to fuel costs, the cost to make asphalt, things like that. So with that reduction, we were able to roll over some funds. We didn't fully budget because we weren't sure. We were kind of like, we want to make sure this is coming before we commit ourselves to these projects.
So obviously what's happened is that oil prices have spiked now. Whether he gets his 10 to 20% reduction will be interesting. Hopefully he will, but I'm a little suspicious of that. Anyway, that's Dan's road report for 2026. And hopefully they get all their projects done. Anyway, I'm Jim Horn. This is Travers Talks. Have yourself one great week. Take care.